December meeting. Welcome to you, each and every one of you, staff as well as the gallery. I would firstly, importantly, acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout the Barossa region and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture, and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. Members, couple of good news items. First and foremost, I would like to congratulate the Director of Corporate Services and Business Innovation, Ms. Mowens. Congratulations, you've gone through the rigour of now being appointed in a permanent role to the Barossa Council in this particular role. So congratulations to you and wish you all the best. And also members, Aaron Curtis has joined us. Aaron is the Manager for Development Services. And so Aaron, on behalf of Council, welcome to the Barossa. I understand that Aaron has had a period in the Mid-Murray Council and also in Salisbury. So you're coming to beautiful country, so welcome. Members, I have a leave of absence from Councillor Haybick. And there's no other apologies, we're all present. So we'll move on to the minutes of the previous meeting for confirmation. And they are the council meeting held on the Tuesday the 16th of November at 9 AM. The special meeting held on Wednesday the 24th of November. And a special council meeting held on Wednesday the 1st of December. Someone move those minutes be accepted. Councillor Wee Smith and seconded Councillor De Vries. All those in favour? Carried. The next item, members, we have is the matters arising from the previous minutes, which is item 1.6.1, and that's the proposed new road asset extension on Middleton Road, Cockatoo Valley. Any questions that anyone? There's been further investigation into this and further information has been provided by the CEO and Mr. McCarthy.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just to document, and we'll obviously put the additional papers tabled in the minutes. We undertook further investigation, which you've seen in the communication. The reality is the existing right-of-way no longer, the previous right-of-way does no longer exist on the land. So this property is actually fundamentally now landlocked. Whilst it has unmade roads to it at the top and the bottom, the recommendation is we now really have no option but to try and create access, and the resident has offered approximately half of the cost associated with it. So we will table the searches as part of the minutes, but clearly the right-of-way no longer exists across that land.
Councillor De Vries?
Yeah, from the report it said that the development had been approved subject to that right-of-way existing. Why does it cease to exist?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So when I did the investigations, I didn't go back and get the actual survey that cancelled it. So I don't fully know the answer to that, but the reality is it cannot be removed unless those that enjoyed the right-of-way signed it off.
Yeah.
So for some reason, a prior or current owner of that land has approved the removal in terms of the Mingy land.
Yeah. Look, I'm happy to move the recommendation. It's a little annoying, and it's amazing that we don't have steps to prevent this from occurring. It looks like there was an intention to prevent this sort of thing from occurring, but it slipped through the cracks. But I agree with you. I mean, when I read the report, it was interesting because I usually read the recommendation I usually read the recommendation to get context to the report, and if I had read the report without the recommendation, I would have come to the exact opposite conclusion that the report went to, that the recommendation went to, but it's a problem that needs to be resolved. There's no point pretending otherwise, so that's what I'm moving.
Thanks, and moved Councillor Breeze and seconded Councillor Johnston. Councillor Brever, I'm assuming you've spoken to the motion.
Yes, that was me speaking.
Thank you, and Councillor Johnston.
I have nothing further to add other than I hope there aren't too many more of these. We've had a few, thank you.
Okay, any further comments? All those in favour? Carried. We'll move to item 1.8, which is deputations, and this is looking at the possible amending of an event management policy and council changes for the community diners at Mount Pleasant. Would you come forward, Wendy? Thank you.
I'm assuming that I can take my mask off.
Will you speak? Yes, that's fine. Yep.
Protocol. First of all, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. I'm Wendy Harvey, I'm the chair of the Mount Pleasant Progress Association, and I have sent you all some information which I hope you've had the opportunity to look at. I also notice further down in your agenda the recommendations, one of which I'm happy to note is that there's a further review of the event management policy, and that it requires further information and further interrogation rather than making a determination today, and that is to seek, as I said, the amendment to the policy regarding payment of fees. I also note in your agenda a document signed by me, which is the licence, which clearly states $1,200 per annum fee for the use of the pavilion, which is used for the community dinners. The community dinner group is a subgroup of the Mount Pleasant Progress Association, and that group are interested in community connectedness rather than just raising money. And it's been very good for the community to come together on the occasions of those dinners, and there's been more than one opportunity for local people to speak on what's happening with things like CFS, the football club, the local hospital when the doctors withdrew emergency services. So the connectedness is the biggest part of the community dinner, and the fundraising is the secondary aspect to that. And I note that I've signed the document saying that there's $1,200 per annum fee. My firm belief is that that is probably a misrepresentation of the actual fee, which turns out to be $100 per community dinner rather than $1,200 per annum. Because of COVID, we've had fewer community dinners, and we now have $600 in fees outstanding. And we are seeking a waiver of that $600 outstanding. I note in your agenda the recommendation is that those fees not be waived. But I seek your indulgence that we have raised in excess of $39,000, which has gone directly back into community facilities, including upgrading of council-owned assets for the use of all who hire those facilities. I think that's it in a nutshell, and I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you. Councillor Johnston?
I'll ask two questions.
Yes.
I tried to discover a bit more about your association on the Australian Not-for-Profit Charities Commission website, the ACNC website. It doesn't appear there. I'm just trying to understand why not, because every other little group in Mount Pleasant is on that website. So do you make a return to the ACNC?
No, I have to defer to my colleagues.
Just interested, because every not-for-profit has to make a little return and sort of give a balance sheet and so on. So I'm just curious to know.
That's not right. No, that's not right.
No, why not? No,
So-
perhaps you can help me.
So if you are a registered charity, then you do that. But if you're not a registered charity, then you don't. If you, it
And
doesn't,
not-for-profits.
yeah, an incorporated association under the Incorporated Associations Act is a separate thing to a charity.
Right.
Yeah.
I might think, find that. And how many people come to the dinner?
It fell off a bit for a while, but I would say 60-ish.
Thank you.
The Christmas one's always a bit more popular because it's a big
Yep.
feast. It's always a feast.
That helps me. Thank you.
Yes, councillor Barrett.
I've got two questions, and you'll understand why I'm asking them now. Later on in the meeting, I'll excuse myself. I have a conflict on this particular matter, so I'm going to ask a couple of questions now just to make sure councillors are aware of some further information in relation to this particular matter. So I asked Wendy, has the Mount Pleasant Progress Association put money towards painting an extensive mural at the Tulunga Park facility?
Yes.
The reason I ask that, and I draw the attention of members to page 289 of our agenda from the 20th of August 2019 when we prioritised the big project. And under Tulunga Park at item 10 it says new artwork and mural introduce artwork to the site primarily by the creation of a large mural on the cattle shed wall. Now, by this group getting little bits of money, they can do tremendous things with little bits of money. Because when you go down further in that particular agenda item, you go to page 318, the estimated cost of that mural and artwork was $43,589. That work's been done. That money council will not have to spend. Mount Pleasant Progress Association has done that because they had a little bit of money in their pocket.
Councillor Barrett, I'm allowing you a little bit of latitude here with your questions, but yeah.
It's informing the members before they come up
fair enough.
later on. And there was one other point, and that was also the planting of trees. Has the Mount Pleasant Progress Association also organised the planting of trees in that facility?
Yes.
Can you elicit or give us a bit more information on what's gone on with the planting of trees?
They are Quercus rubica, I think. Red oak is the common name. I think Genevieve may be able to help me. I think there's in excess of 20.
Yes.
And we had some funds. We determined that that would beautify the park. There was a group of us got together and somebody dug the hole and somebody put the tree in and somebody else backfilled the hole, and then we put stakes and tied the trees up and we've been watering them. That was all done with working bees, and the Progress Association funded the cost of the trees. However, I must say that there were some, I don't think it covered the entire cost, but some community members donated for trees, myself included. And we've now funded a little plaque to say thank you to the community for their efforts in raising those funds.
Thank you, Wendy. The reason I ask that is because that appears at item number 9, same page reference number, page 289 from the 20th of August, and that particular item, when you go down to page 318, was $363,235. That's for new signage, planting, trees and furniture. So part of that item is, again, council won't have to fund it because a group like Mount Pleasant Incorporated has done the work. So that's the only 2 points I wanted to make in relation to that. Thank you.
Very well done. Councillor De Vries.
Thank you, and look, thank you, Wendy, for coming and sharing that your point of view with us. I'm very sympathetic to the issue. As I understand your position, effectively you want us to waive fees because your group has been doing a lot of contributions towards the Tulunga Park.
Yes.
You can understand the reticence that there would be in the room because the word precedent is obviously looming loud because there are many other groups such as yours that also do stellar work in the community, and without people like yourself, the system wouldn't work. One way around this problem may be, would you be willing to accept that you still had to pay fees, but maybe those fees could be offset by a rebate coming out of the reserve fund of the Toolunga Park facility.
I'm not sure how that would work operationally,
Just-
but yes.
Yeah, in theory, yeah.
Yes,
I know it's sort of robbing Peter to pay Paul, but it might be a way to resolve the issue. And I'm not suggesting that's something that the rest of the council, I'm just curious as to whether you'd be happy with that on a principle basis.
I would have to take that to the group, but in principle, that sounds quite a reasonable way to proceed. Because I think it's a matter of principle that the money that's been raised has gone back into community assets.
I understand. You feel like you're being double dipped, basically.
Yes, despite the fact that I personally signed that form.
Sure.
One of the sentiments expressed around our meeting table has been that, well, if council won't help us, that's probably too strong, but if council aren't sympathetic to this request, we can find other places to spend the money we raise. There are many, many community groups who would benefit from the support of the Progress Association.
Sure. No, I think we are sympathetic. It's just what you're asking would require an enormous set of precedent, and I'm trying to find a solution that will work for you guys, which won't have your equivalent in Tanunda, Niri lining up week after week, and then who pays? And that's the issue that we're trying to resolve. So.
Yes, I understand, and that's why, looking at your agenda, I see that's why the second part of our request today was to seek an amendment to the policy, because we can't just come cap in hand every year and say, please waive fees. We would need there to be a policy change which would effectively reduce the income for council on lease of council property.
Yes.
But the net effect is very much in council's favour.
Sure. No, and
Thanks.
I agree. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll probably end it. Any more questions while Ms Harvey's there? Okay, thanks for that.
That's all right. Thank you.
Item 2.1, page 16, the Mayor's report. Any questions? Someone move the motion. Councillor De Vries and seconded Councillor Miller. I assume you don't want to talk on the motion.
No.
Thank you. Councillor Miller? Thank you. All those in favour? Carried. We'll move to the consensus agenda. Is there any items members wish to have excluded from the consensus agenda? Would someone like to move? Councillor Johnston moved and seconded Councillor Boothby. Any comments? Motion, all those in favour? Carried. We'll now move to 7.2.1, and that's the review of the confidential orders.
Obviously, Mr Mayor, the confidentiality order is about my performance reviews and salary, package.
31.
You have a conflict, so I'll leave the chamber.
Thank you. Page 31.
Hang on, let me leave first.
I'll move the motion.
Moved Councillor Johnston, seconded Councillor Troop. Either one wish to speak?
Self-evident, thank you.
Any comments? All those in favour? It's carried.
I like that they moved me away from the door. It's good.
Page 37, 7.2.2, it's the monthly financial report as at the 30th of November 2021. Any questions?
Move the blurry report be received.
Moved Councillor Breeze, seconded Councillor Barrett. Other one wish to speak? Councillor Barrett?
Just excellent to have some meaningful data being presented, excellent to get this data. So thank you.
Thank you.
It's a bit blurry.
Every attachment's blurry.
You can do it, that. Something about
I'll
the
put the
scanning
motion, all
figures.
those in favour?
That was scanned rather than exported.
Carried.
Useful for you.
7.2.3 on page 40 is the funding agreement between Tourism Barossa Incorporated and the Barossa Council.
Mr. Mayor, we missed one. Sorry. No. As a board member of Tourism Barossa, I have a actual conflict of interest. Happy to take any questions if anyone wants me before I scoot though.
Any questions that any member has for councillor Boothby? Thank you.
Move the recommendation, Your Worship.
Moved councillor De Vries, seconded councillor Johnston. Councillor De Vries?
This is basically picking up on the fact that we know that Tourism Barossa is now part of the Barossa Australia, and with this funding not to proceed, we would scuttle the whole process, so obviously we need to do it.
Thank you. Councillor Johnston?
No, I think it's self-evident, there's just, make sure the relationship continues, that's all. There's no significant change other than.
Councillor Wee-Smith?
I just had a quick question for the CEO. Obviously, in terms of this now merging into Barossa Australia, what is our agreement likely to look like going forward? Are we going to be looking at sort of the same kinds of funding with the new organisation? Is there any information you can give us on that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, so after yesterday, those meetings that you and I loved to go to, yeah, we did talk about that transition into next year. So current arrangements, there's a MOU sitting between the two bodies to essentially accept the responsibilities, etc., of all the different agreements that are in place, because there's obviously other funding agreements in place until mid-year. So what will happen in the next 6 months is we'll start to negotiate an agreement with Barossa Australia. What that looks like, I guess, is a broader conversation for how we're going to go out supporting Barossa Australia. Are we going to expand it? Are we going to sit just within the tourism space? And one of the opportunities that's actually happened here is that we've fully documented better the tourism space. So as we transition to the 30th of June next year, we'll have to execute different agreements. Absolutely. But we'll need to, I've started a conversation with the CEO what that might look like. But there's certainly a strong flavour to make sure we continue to invest in the tourism specifically, because obviously the other funding arms have state government levies that they can rely upon. And there may be other projects and things like that we may look at in the future as well. So my gut feel right at the moment, subject to obviously coming and have a conversation with you guys next year, is that the tourism component will remain strong in whatever agreement. Anything else, I guess we need to have a different conversation, potentially different agreement around.
And just further to that one there, obviously with the transition to Barossa Australia, we've had reporting arrangements in place already with Tourism Barossa. Are they likely to remain the same, or will we be looking at something different there? You know, like we've often had the manager come through and present us with an annual report, or we'll be looking at something a bit more broader.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, no, it's fairly clear now that at the end of the day, the CEO of Barossa Australia will essentially be the head of tourism.
And will continue to provide us with those verbal reports.
Absolutely. Yep.
Councillor Johnston?
And can we assume that our neighbours are going to continue there?
No, you can't assume that.
You've been winding it back slowly.
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, it's a question I was just going to ask.
I thought I'd give that one a break.
It's still what there is, but anyway, we haven't
I
heard.
can't answer what another chamber does.
No, okay. Councillor Schilling?
Mr McCarthy, can you confirm what the actual amount is that
The annual
relates
amount.
to this? Because I could find a number that was crossed out. And
Yeah, it's
see
43 something.
that is that number, okay.
43,164.
And that's the annual,
That's the annual.
yeah, thank you.
Which is basically just the base plus CPI each
Yeah,
year.
yeah, thank you.
Any further?
That is in the budget as well.
Any further questions?
Happy to close the debate, Your Worship.
Yes.
Yeah, we've had a long relationship with Tourism Barossa, and yeah, there was a time when Light Council matched us, which was, you know, on a pro rata basis, actually pretty impressive, but such is not the case anymore. I think we belong in that tourism space clearly, and we need to continue to support that and maintain that. We used to receive reports from the head of Barossa Wine and Tourism when it was the broader bodies, so I would assume it's just exactly like that.
Thank you. All those in favour? Carried. Item 7.2.4, this is the Anguston Football Club loan support on page 60. And this is looking at considering advancing access to a community loan through the local government funding authority.
Move the recommendation, Your Worship. Oh, sorry, John.
I'm happy to second it, but I have a couple of questions.
Do you have a question? I'll take the question first.
I noticed in the text further down that $300,000 commitment to the bowling club is mentioned. I just wonder why that is mentioned in relation to the football club, because I think they're separate entities. And it makes the football club's indebtedness look fairly significant, 1.4 mil, I think it was. Yeah. Is the bowling club debt included in the footy club? I don't,
Is the,
give me some context.
Thanks, Councillor Angus. Apologies if I've confused the hell out of you.
It's easy to do.
What that is saying is at the moment this year, they're the commitments we've made.
That we've made, that
Yeah.
the council has made,
Correct.
thank you.
Sorry, and if all these loans are taken, Spalding hasn't taken theirs out yet, they're still
Yeah,
working.
no, that's fine, that's cleared up,
Our community loans value for everybody would be 1.4.
thank you, no worries. Yeah,
Thank
happy
you.
to second it.
Councillor Derisi was moving the motion.
Yeah, I guess the
I'll
question
just
is,
get a seconder.
John.
I was happy to
Second,
second.
thank you. Okay, yep, Councillor Derisi.
Yeah, I guess the question is, do we trust that the footy club will be able to repay the loan? I totally believe that. They are fantastic community members, and we couldn't make a better investment. So, and anything we can do to help, I think is great. So.
Yeah, no, I have nothing to add, thank you, Mayor.
I have a question, Your Worship.
Councillor Johnston.
Do they continue to pay a licensing fee?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any further comment? All those in favour? Carried. Page 92, 7.2.5, this is the appointment to the New York Centennial Park Authority Board of Management, and the board has put forward to council to authorise the board management with the recommendations of Stephen Bell, Sarah Lanois and Robin Phillips.
I'll move the motion.
Yeah, I'll second
Moved Councillor Johnston and seconded Councillor Hearn.
No, I think the papers show that the folk are interested and capable, so I think we should move ahead with the appointments.
Councillor Hearn.
Well, two of the three are currently on the board. They have been for some time, and Robin Phillips is the new one, well known and on lots of boards around the Barossa. So he's a good man.
Any further comment? All those in favour? Carried. Page 118, which is the Williamstown RSL and Senior Citizens Hall consultation results and finalisation of a lease agreement. Page 118. Any questions? Councillor De Vries?
Well,
Move.
happy to move, yeah.
Seconded Councillor Louise Smith. Wish to speak?
Oh, we went out to consultation, and it sounds like nothing from that consultation has presented any problems, so there's no reason not to proceed.
Thank you. Councillor Louise Smith?
Yeah, just to add to that, it's good to see that there has been a consultation that's elicited a few responses there, but all positive by the sounds of things, so yeah, no reason not to proceed.
Put the motion, all those in favour? Carried. Page 156, this is the Planning, Development and Infrastructure Act delegation updates to the instruments A, B, C and D. And it's 7.3.1 on page 156. Any questions?
Where do you start?
Exactly, it's the same.
All right, move the recommendation.
Moved councillor De Vries,
Very well.
seconded councillor Hearn. Either one of you wish to speak?
It's formal motion.
All those in favour? Carried. Page 174, which is the Barossa Council's performance and activity report for the full year, and it gives a full account of all of the activities and the various measures within the Barossa Council corporate plan.
Just a question, Your Worship.
Yep.
Just a question for Mr Mavernick. On page 14 of the actual report, there's a discussion about, and sorry, I don't know the PDF page number off the top of my head. 189. There's a discussion about the waste to landfill actually increasing despite the ratio between landfill and recycling changing in the benefit of recycling. Just a question as to whether or not on a per bin basis, does that mean we've got more bins out there and that's why we've got another 339 tonnes of landfill, which is, you know, attracting levies and quite a bit of activity?
Yeah, through the Mayor, in part it will definitely be due to the increase in bin services. Obviously with new residents coming into the Barossa, that would definitely add to the tonnage. And it'll also be possibly due to COVID, obviously with more people at home as well. Quite likely that in terms of the greater generation of waste within households.
So would it be a better thing to do to monitor on a per household basis somehow? Because these numbers are, you know, they're good, but they don't tell us what's really happening in that sense.
Yeah, look, we can quite easily provide more information as part of these performance reports. So we could potentially present with you the increase in service numbers or decrease in service numbers accordingly as part of our explanation to the performance.
And may I ask a further question?
Yes.
Mr Mavernick, and also note on the next page that we've got 1,600 tonne of green waste we're now collecting. Does that represent an opportunity? Because I note that Barossa grape growers are actually importing vast quantities of compost, and the most expensive part of that is the transport costs. So it seems interesting that we pay money to take it out of the region to a composting station and then pay money to bring it back into the region. So I think that, along with their neighbours, that could represent a significant opportunity down the track.
Through the Mayor, obviously that is a huge opportunity and something that obviously has been identified through the work that Legatus have done as part of their waste strategy, which will be brought to Council possibly at the January meeting for endorsement. But yeah, obviously the Legatus group have looked at, you know, the opportunities for regional facilities within the region to reduce some of that transport cost for all waste streams, not just the green.
Thank you.
Could I just ask Gary?
Yes.
Yeah, Mr Mavernick, better make it formal. I think last year we intimated there was going to be a saving around $43,000 in that vicinity. Is that likely to, with the questions that Councillor Johnson asked, is that?
Yeah, through the Mayor, obviously we'll still see some benefit because obviously the cost for disposal of recycle and green is much cheaper than waste landfill. So despite obviously seeing that increase in tonnage, the overall cost should still overly reduce our cost to remove the waste from our community.
Mm-hmm.
So we should sort of hopefully hit that target.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any further questions? Councillor Wee-Smith?
Mine's just in regards to the CSR completion rate, which starts on page 198 of the agenda. It's a question I've asked before, just around closing the loop on CSRs. So it's great to note that our completion rate has hit 97% there. but I'm just wondering what we do with our customers to let them know that these requests have actually been actioned or completed.
Do you want to start, or do you want me to? Thank you, Mr Mayor, through you, Councillor Wheatsmith. It will depend on the particular item. So, if somebody raises a CRM and asks for feedback, we will normally get back to them in some way. I don't have a particular stat on that figure. What we are building and continue to build is the mechanisms for either automated feedback through things like a text or a phone or on your phone, sorry. But I can't give you the actual stat, how many are getting the particular feedback. Some people don't want feedback, so when we do take a CRM, personally, we will seek, my understanding, we will seek a tick a box that they want feedback, and that will normally be in some sort of verbal, written or email correspondence. But I can't give you a stat. Is it perfect? No, it's not at the moment, but it is an improvement item that Jo and her team and Kirsty and her team are working on.
The reason I asked for that is because I and a number of other people I know have put through CSRs, and aside from the automated "we've received your request" email, there's nothing to say that that's actually been actioned. And I've had that happen on a number of occasions where it may be something that's not necessarily right next door to me. So without actually going to that place to see if it's been actioned, you don't know if that's happened or if it requires follow-up, which I think is important. Even if it is an automated text or something like that, just to let someone know that your request has been completed.
And we're building that functionality, but yes, absolutely acknowledge we can do it better. Yep.
Any further questions? Councillor Troop?
Through you, Mr Mayor, just wondering, under the community and culture section, why there, probably a question for Ms Hagi, because I'm just wondering if the community connector role would be represented in this. I know this is financial, partly financial, but why would not that new role and the influence that's happening in the with the community and people actually ringing in and being connected to other things like volunteering and those stats be embedded into this document? I'm just wondering, because that is a new role that's being outworked.
Yep.
Thanks, Councillor Troop. It's because it's the financial year and we've only had a few small parts of the data available until the end of June. We've got some really robust data now, so that will be shown in the next annual report. And I'm happy to bring something back to council if you want to see some data before then, because we've got some pretty robust.
Because obviously, we look at the library visit, the targets are not met, but however, I would say that that's represented in the other role, the community connector, because a lot of people are wanting to be connected otherwise, so, yeah.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Just to add, you've got to remember this is built on the old corporate plan, which is 4 years old.
Yep.
Okay, so we are looking at a new corporate plan, hopefully to bring something to council early next year, which we will then build in new indicators that will pick up some of those new programs and have a little bit more sophisticated reporting. There is a huge amount of stuff that we don't necessarily report and we have data on. It's really to give you a snapshot of some of the bigger areas of what we're doing. But yeah, we can absolutely build something in that space.
Excellent. Through you, I just respond as well in terms of the library results. So they're obviously reduced due to the COVID impact and us reducing some of our activities and service delivery during the year, depending on what we were requested to do through the state. So that has to be mindful of that as well.
Excellent.
Thank you. No further questions. Someone like to move Councillor Troop, seconded Councillor Johnston. Either one wish to speak?
Just that I love these reports. I'm a visual learner, and I feel like these reports, if people actually read them, in the public. Well, I feel like I could send these reports to the public, and they'd actually see what we're doing. So I really appreciate them.
Thank you. All those in favour? Carried. The next one is on page 212, which which is the Mount Pleasant Progress Association request for a waiver of the licence agreement fees. Councillor Barrett.
I'll declare a conflict. My wife and I both attend those community dinners as a potential benefit or loss one way or the other. So accordingly, I will vacate the room.
Thank you, councillor. Any questions? Councillor, sorry.
I'm not a councillor.
Yet, CEO.
Just a couple of points of clarification. Whilst we were having the presentation, the recommendation is put there because that's exactly what the staff have to put. That is the current policy position. We don't have powers to change that position. So it's not meant to be controversial or anything, it's just the position. The second issue I'd just like to highlight to you, so in the mural, which is a great piece of work, it is problematic because it's actually not legal. So we are still working on that. It has no bearing on this particular matter. But seeing that it was raised, I had better let you know that I don't believe the DA has been done for that yet. It's a good reminder for me to chase it up.
Mayor, do we have to move the motion or do we make an amendment or?
Any questions? If not, it's up to
If not, I'd like to move.
Want to move forward.
I would like to move forward that we, if it's just a single case, that we design a motion to say with this group that we.
Councillor Hearn, I don't like designing motions.
Okay, well, I'd like to decline the request of the waiver fees and just say that they pay no fees at all. Simple as that.
Okay.
Because it's 100% going back into the.
So you're moving a motion that basically says that council approve the waiver request.
Yes.
I just had a question. Before that, I had
I'll
one.
just see if I get a. I'll just see if I get a seconder first. Is there a seconder? Lack of seconder. We'll. So you have a question,
Yeah.
Councillor True?
I'd just like to explore what you suggested, Councillor DeVries suggested, because I didn't understand it. So could you just explain what you were suggesting?
Explain it, okay.
Yeah, I didn't quite understand what you were saying, that's all.
Alright, so,
Can I quickly do it?
yeah, if you like,
You take the money and you give it back.
yeah, it's,
Simple as that.
Okay.
so but given that they're raising this money to help the hall, or the facility, rather than them then being subsidised by the rest of the broader community, it basically, the money they put in, they just get back out again, so they're raising it for themselves, but that's,
It's in effect what happens now.
yeah,
Yeah, same thing.
so it's a money go round, but it doesn't actually change anything, but if symbolically it would then,
Formalises it.
it makes them feel happier that they're not wasting their time.
Councillor Angus, then Councillor Johnston.
Mayor, I was going to move that this matter lie on the table, seeking further input from staff and councillors in the interests of the feelings that I'm getting from around the chamber. I think there seems to be some want to see the Mount Pleasant community treated equitably without favouring them in or disfavouring other communities. So I think it's dangerous to do it on the run, but I think it could be done by January or even February. So I'd move that this lie on the table.
Well,
I'll second that.
then we can't talk about it now.
Well,
I know,
If
but
you
it
don't
needs
do
further-
that, we can still discuss it.
We can have a workshop.
Do you want a hand?
I mean, you don't have to act at all, I mean, just,
The motion does what?
I've got a mover and a seconder.
I don't think this is a great forum for discussing it. We need some background information. It's a workshop job.
Yeah.
I think. Sorry, Dave, that's how I see it. When we can all be informed, rather than sort of tossing ideas around.
Moved councillor Angus and seconded councillor Lee Smith, CR.
Let's make sure we get this right. The matter's laying on the table pending conversation at a workshop.
But you're laying the fact that we're gonna do that on the table, so we can't have that conversation.
I think it requires a broader conversation.
But you've laid that part of it on the
If
table.
you're so concerned, defeat the motion,
Yeah.
and do it again.
Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour that the matter lay on the table? Those against? The motion is carried.
So how do we have a workshop when?
We've laid.
Okay, next item, we'll just move on without any further debate.
It's a reasonable question, Your Worship, to understand the functionality of that now, because we were I'd hope we could actually get the officers to develop a formal policy so that we could discuss it, but we've just laid that on the table. So can they actually now act on this at all?
Of course they can.
Till
the next meeting.
CEO, I'll just let the CEO explain.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, we can bring that back to because the wording will be such that the matter's laying on the table pending a conversation at a workshop on the policy position. The policy position, quite interestingly, team is reflective of some stuff we brought back previous council and this council to do with licensing fees. The work's actually there, ready to go.
We've workshopped it already, haven't we? I think we did.
Yeah, that's the system, people. There's a motion.
Yep.
Carried.
We didn't have to move that, we could have done another option.
Thank you. Next item, councillor Barrett, can someone just call him back in, please? Councillor Barrett, the meeting decided to leave the matter lay on the table pending further discussions at a workshop. Thank you. The next item is 7.4.2, which is the resourcing for arts and culture creative industries, and this is taking into account the necessary resources for the current levels of service and demand growth.
Yeah, I'll move the recommendation.
Moved councillor Angus,
Seconded.
seconded councillor Troop. Councillor Angus.
Thanks, Mayor. I think this is a sign of the times, and I fully endorse council's decision to bring forward suspending. So I urge you to support the motion.
Councillor Troop.
Now, I've just seen how hard they work in that space, and I just fully endorse more money going into it, so yes.
Councillor Wee Smith.
Just to further support the motion, I think it's worth pointing out that we don't need bricks and mortar to make things like this happen, and I think this is a really good step forward in this space to get things happening within the community.
Councillor De Vries and then councillor Schilling.
I fully support this, as I spoke passionately about at the workshop. Creative industries is a growth area, probably one of the greatest growth areas, and as we've looked at with the business development within the district, this is one area where we can diversify, and anything that we can do to help progress this, I think, is terrific. This is an area where the youth of the Barossa at large can have additional opportunities to what they currently have. So I'm a big favour of this.
Yeah, I just have a quick question. When reading through all this information, I'm trying to get in my head a bit of a timeline. There's no dates on any of the attachments. So the letter to Ms Tappert from Wendy Harvey talks about a 2016-2017 financial year, but it doesn't actually say when the letter was received. So I kind of get confused with timelines of some of these attachments.
I'm not following.
Well, there's a letter here from Mount Pleasant to Rebecca Tappert, and it talks about the end of financial year 2016-2017, but there's no date on the letter as to when that letter was received, so I find that a bit confusing.
That's the prior matter,
Sorry, it's attachment 11.
through you,
Page
Mr. That's the prior matter.
That was the prior.
Oh, was it? Sorry?
Yeah, that's,
But we will follow that up, councillor Schilling, and let you know, but that's the prior matter.
Yes.
Okay.
Can I speak to the motion?
beg pardon?
Can I speak to the
But we'll
motion?
get that back to you anyhow, as a question.
Like the previous speaker, I support this and I think it's in keeping with our overall focus to develop an industries hub. Thank you.
Any further comments? If not, you wish to close the debate, councillor? Okay. All those in favour? Carry. Page 337, which is the Barossa Libraries Review at the draft consultation, and I do understand Mel Whitrow, you're the manager for Library Services. Welcome. Any questions you wish to come up? Any questions that any members may have?
I was gonna move the motion.
Moved councillor Wee Smith, seconded councillor Troop. You wish to speak?
Yeah, just to commend staff on the report here, sorry, I'll take that one off. In particular though, some of the recommendations in there I find really interesting, such as the working group with local stakeholders. So I think there's some really good stuff to come out of this, and I hope that we can get some action on some of it, so well done.
Councillor Troop?
Oh,
Yep.
yeah, just echoing that thought. I think that it's a great document. I think that we'll get a lot of feedback on this. It's probably one of the most engaging areas. Like, I mean, if you saw the last your say, there was so much engagement, and I think that's because people still love their libraries. But I think libraries have got to move with the times. So, and I think community space and connection tick all those wellbeing boxes, and that is where it's going in the future. They will be pivotal for that community connections, utilising the gardens, even the coffee shop idea. Wow, I think if we can get something like that, it will make the library and the council more accessible to the public, and they will come, because if there's coffee and all that sort of stuff, they will come, and that was probably what will appeal to people, that place of, not saying that that's going to happen, but just that hub idea. They will, if we generate that, there's more accessibility to the public, and barriers will be broken down, I think. So, yeah, great report, great recommendations.
Any further comment?
More a request than a comment. The consultation, any hope of getting the courier included in the consultation? I see it's got the bunyip and the leader, but this one I think might be worth spending an extra few $100 to include the courier, the particular target audience who use the libraries down our way. Thank you, councillor. Councillor Johnston?
I just speak in support of this. I'm here because I lived in our local library when I was a kid, and it was built with Carnegie funding. Just a question, where do we sit in the future? I actually read a lot of books on Libby on the app. So how does the interaction between the physical space and what's emerging as where most people may read in the future lie? And is that reflected in the stats in here? You know, the number of users and who accesses it. Like, am I counted even though I'm doing it through some central server somewhere?
Through the mayor. So there has been, I think when ebooks and audiobooks came out in that digital format, people thought that there would be a huge shift and it would end up being 50-50 with hard copy and digital. But it's actually lying at about 80-20, and it's plateaued over the last 4 or 5 years.
That's
So,
interesting.
and those figures are included because if you borrow through Libby or through our public library service, then that's included.
I've got a Barossa. No, I've got an Adelaide City card. Oh, okay.
Okay, we'll sort that.
I better change that.
Come and see us. So that is still counted, but I think what we're seeing a lot of is there's still that digital divide where there's people who don't have access to devices or don't know how to use their device to access an ebook, and we provide a lot of that service.
Even people with vision impairment get really large print on an iPad, so I understand the future might hold for me.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions?
Just a quick one, 80-20 in favour of hard copy, yes, thank you.
Paper, not blue light.
Okay, all those in favour? Carried.
Say something?
Thank you.
Some people read in bed.
Page 452, which is the proposed postponement of the community consultation for the Newry War Memorial Swimming Pool. And this is to provide council with reports from both the Newry War Memorial Pool and the Williamstown destructive testing results.
Move recommendation 1, Your Worship.
Moved councillor De Vries, seconded councillor Angus. Wish to speak, councillor De Vries?
I don't see any great desire from anyone in the room for me to do so, so no.
No, thank you.
Okay. No further comments, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried.
I'm happy to move recommendation 2.
Oh, sorry, yes,
I'll
yes.
second it.
My apologies, yes. Moved councillor Angus and seconded councillor Johnston. All those in favour?
Can I ask a question?
Pardon?
Can I ask a question,
Yes, you can.
please? One of the things that has always concerned me with the motion that we have at the moment in terms of maintaining the pool until such time as the cost of doing so outweighs the community benefit as determined by council, and it's never been, I don't think we have been, it has been articulated to me how we will ever actually measure that. So my concern is for the team in terms of, so this basically, you know, we're about to move a motion that says that we will now go and explain this to the community. I wish you luck with that because I do not understand how we are actually managing this moving forward. I think this is one of the most complex things I've ever been involved with in my professional career. In terms of, I have no idea how we are ever going to actually be able to actually make that happen and explain it to anyone. So I guess my concern is that, and I will support the motion by the way, because I don't think we have any choice. But I am concerned about our ability to ever actually enact that. So if there's some way for the team to be able to explain to me as a councillor how you're going to do that, that'd be great, because then if I get questions from the community, I'll be able to answer them.
It's a question, does anyone want to tackle the answer?
Can I add to that? I feel like we're the frog. I feel like in terms of the ongoing expenditure, I feel like the frog that's slowly being boiled, and we'll end up spending $2 million in that facility. I think that's the concern.
Do have a mover and a seconder, so.
I don't necessarily have an answer myself. I'm following the resolutions. It took us 2 hours to pull all the resolutions out to actually understand exactly what was on the table.
I'm happy to speak to the motion. Does the mover wish to open the debate?
As the mover, perhaps I will open the debate. I think we are overthinking and overcomplicating this to the point where we've made a decision. It's quite simple and it probably won't affect a few of us. But in 15 or 20 years' time, if the integrity of the pool is at question again, that will be a decision to be made in that at that time. For the moment, we've spent a significant amount of money on it. We've got a good asset that a very significant group of people want and see as an essential part of living in Newry and life in the Barossa. As far as I'm concerned, we've delivered on that. If they want to heat it, to shade it, then they'd better go and fundraise for themselves. I think we've done our fair share. We've got alternative aquatic ventures in Tanunda. I think, basically all bets are off. The pool's been renovated to a point where it is fit for purpose, and let's get on with life.
You, councillor?
Is it me?
Is
or-
it me?
No,
Yeah.
you were the seconder?
No, who was the seconder?
John seconded.
No, I
Johnson.
okay,
sorry.
So
I've spoken,
I asked to speak before,
All right.
yeah.
the frog.
Councillor De Vries.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Wee-Smith.
Look, community consultation was always predicated on the idea that we would put the draft aquatic strategy out to the community. That was the whole reason why we were going to have it in the first place. This council has sat on that aquatic strategy for, I think, 4 years now, or 3.5, something like that. Given that we have no appetite to enact it or even to recognise it formally, how we can then consult on such a document, I think, is mindless, is meaningless. So there's no reason to actually go out to the community for consultation, given that I don't even know what we'd be consulting on, which is what I mentioned at the workshop when this was discussed before. That aquatic strategy talked about traditional and emerging and other forms of aquatic across the entire region. That was a wide-ranging exploration which was done by community members, by council members and also by council staff, and it was conducted over a long period of time, over I think 2 or 3 councils worth of time. But for better or worse, we have decided that it is not something that we want to follow through on. We don't want to share that information. So ultimately, as a result of that, we have said no. We have made the decision by proxy that traditional is the way we want to go, without making that decision of going to the community first. And we did that because we spent the money that was on the traditional form of the pool. So we have by proxy, we've effectively made the decision. So there's no need to go to consultation because that would be retrospective. If we were to go out to consultation, my belief is we would have to revisit that aquatic strategy. I believe that we would have to actually engage that process pretty much from the ground up, and I've spoken to Councillor Schilling about this very issue. There may be elements in that are still viable. It may be that sort of future approach is ultimately the way that the community want to go, but at the moment this council does not have an appetite to explore that, because part of that may run the risk of closing the Neri pool, and it seems that that's off the table, at least for the time being. We have, in my personal view, I don't see the pool ever being shut for the next 15 years. When we spoke about closing the pool, it was done, certainly on my behalf, it was done on the serious belief that the pool was in an imminent danger of collapse, and that we were going to have this white elephant, and I think that term was used by many, including myself, and that it would just suck money out of the council. We have received this information that the pool is in not as much trouble structurally as we first thought. So on that basis, I think we're back to where we were before, which is just rolling things over business as usual until such time as there is some potential for collapse. We've been informed that that's unlikely to happen for the next 15 years. And so I suspect that's probably where we're postponing this decision to. So I think the word postpone in this motion probably infers to people that, we're thinking about maybe putting it out in 6 months or a year. I think you should point out that postponement is probably multi-years, possibly multi-generational. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wee-Smith?
Yeah, I do have concerns that we're postponing this community consultation. The reason we've spent a lot of time talking about this issue over the past nearly 4 years is that we don't actually know what the community wants in terms of future aquatic services. Now, we've established where Neri Pool's at, and yes, it's in good condition and we should continue to keep it open as long as we can, but I still feel that there's a need for us to establish what the community actually wants in terms of future aquatics in this region. So I'm a bit undecided about this motion, to be honest, because I feel that there is still a need for us to go out to the community and find out what it is they want.
Further comments? Councillor Angus, do you wish to close the debate?
I think enough's been said, thank you, Mayor.
All those in favour? Those against? The motion is carried. Item 7.6.1 on page 490.
Move the motion.
Second.
Moved councillor Wee Smith, seconded councillor De Vries. Question?
Mayor, I'll just declare that I am a member of this society. The right one?
Yes, I don't think you've got a conflict.
But I do not see a conflict as such, but in the interest of thorough disclosure, I am a Baron of the Barossa,
You're not on the board, are you?
but I'm not on the board.
So as far as I can see, you have no conflict.
Thank you. Either one of you wish to speak to the?
What do you do, deserve that?
No,
Thank you.
the town loves it.
Caught out.
All those in favour? Carried. Page 493, which is a request for purchase of an unmade public road reserved the Little Kaiserstuhl Road.
I'll move the motion.
Moved councillor Johnston, seconded councillor Boothby. Either one wish to speak?
No, I think that it's become an established policy that we reluctantly give up our existing reserves, road reserves, because they may become useful in the future for all sorts of uses that we can't foresee. So we should be cautious about giving them away or selling them or whatever it is we do.
Any further comments? All those in favour? It's carried. Page 498.
Yes, I'll move the recommendation, Mayor.
Moved councillor Angus, seconded councillor Barrett. Either one wish to speak?
No, I think it's a step in the right direction.
Very much so.
Oh, just briefly, the irony is, I went to the health event conducted by council at Mount Pleasant recently, and this is before this came up, and I was actually approached by a lady from Eden Valley speaking about this very issue, so it's topical in Eden Valley, so I commend the motion to everyone.
Yep, very well done. Put the motion, all those in favour? Carried. Page 501, which is the proposed accelerated rural seal project.
Move the recommendation.
I'll just swing to Mr Elding.
Through you, Mr Mayor, thank you. Just wanted to provide some clarity in the report that's been provided to you. It may not have been clear in those tables, and I'll refer to tables 2 and 3 on page 5 and 6 of the report itself. Each of those roads, table 3 is really the technical weighted criteria. Each of those roads were assessed against that criteria. What I've put in front of you is the data we collected to make that assessment, and that wasn't contained within the report. That's just simply a summation of pre-existing data from various systems such as Conquest and our customer pathway database. Depending on where the debate goes today, there is we've done some further work in terms of Calbeeba Road. There may be some difficult interventions required that would need the approval of the department if we're sealing that road because of the traffic volumes and entering onto a state road. That hasn't been considered, and I excluded that. I didn't put that in the exclusions that are listed in the report. I just wanted to draw your attention to that. It may well be that second part of that resolution, we can do some further work and bring that back January, February next year. But again, depends on where the debate lands today.
So what you're suggesting is that that last part of that recommendation, also complete the upgrade of the ceiling of a two-coat seal, and we talk about some other roads. If we leave that out of this recommendation, pending some further information coming back.
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor, the intent of structuring, and it was difficult to structure this recommendation, essentially we have some grant funding that's sitting there. It's an opportunity to assign that to rural roads to upgrade them, which is those three that have been selected. The capacity for the works and operations team to execute those works in a single financial year is limited, recognising that the last road we upgraded was Hoffmannsthal in 2016. We have built capacity and continuing next financial year we pick up 2 more resources as part of the already approved business plan that's come to council. So we're developing that capability, but I'm mindful of what the capacity of that team is to maintain existing services, existing maintenance services, as well as taking on significant capital work. So that's why I've suggested those 3 roads there. I think that's achievable next financial year. So the resolution's been structured around what I think is achievable over the next few years. And it may well be that we can do some further modelling and bring a further report back for some of those other roads. And again, depends where the debate lands today.
So just so we're clear with the recommend or where we're going to move, we will just stop after the 3 dot points.
That's up, yeah, through you, Mr Mayor, that's up to the chamber, but that's certainly
Pending
an option
some
to the
little
chamber.
bit more information.
It doesn't matter, given that it sort of doesn't set a time frame.
It does identify some roads though.
Okay.
Just
Right.
Well, you could also consider the upgrade.
Correct.
okay.
Okay, I'm happy to move with that alteration.
Just that one word.
Consider rather than complete.
Also consider. Yeah, Councillor Lee Smith.
I'll second it.
All right. Okay.
Question?
Yes, Councillor Angus.
It appears that we don't have any potential to actually get contractors in to do these jobs. We're going to do it all ourselves? Question mark.
Through you, Mr Mayor. The pavement work, so in terms of the rubble, installing culverts, widening, vegetation, that'll all be self-performed through the operations team. We have an existing seal arrangement with Downers, and so the intent would be to use that contract to have the sealing done by our contractors. It's not a capability that the operations team have.
Right, okay.
Thank you. Any further comment? You wish to close?
I was just going to open it. No, the reason I was so quick out of the blocks with this one is because Yaldara Drive, I really want to see that done. Your Worship and I was almost 2 years now when we first went down there and saw the huge potential for this area from tourism. The fact that, in fact, that's where Colonel Light stood and drew the first picture of the Barossa and named it and so forth. I mean, that obviously is long overdue. And I'm just so glad that we finally got there. So good news. Which I'm being presumptive, of course. I'm assuming everybody's going to support.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Wee Smith.
Yeah, just to endorse those comments, in particular the 2 roads in the southern Barossa that are going to deliver so much for that region. Goldfields Road in particular is well overdue for some work. I don't know how many elected members have been down that road lately, but I think I need a new car. I've been doing a few laps with my son recently and it's certainly not the best road in the region. So well overdue. Just a quick question regarding Goldfields Road. When could we perhaps look at the second stage of that? So we're looking at doing part of it at the moment, but the next bit up, has that been factored in at all?
Through you, Mr Mayor. Look, I guess the priorities is what's been presented to council in those 2 cost assessments. So there's been no consideration at this stage, the second stage of Goldfields Road, acknowledging the regional priorities that we have for those other roads that have been listed.
I asked that question because I'm sure members are aware there's a petition at the moment to see the full length of Goldfields Road sealed, so it's a question we're going to come up against. So I think that's a pretty straightforward answer at this point.
I might just clarify, we haven't accepted that as a petition because it didn't follow
It's underway though.
process.
It hasn't
Yeah.
come to us.
Look, yeah, I've spoken to the resident and they were keen for it to go all the way through, but I pointed out that possibly, within the current financial climate and all the other demands, that it was probably highlighted the first section was our worst and very hard to maintain and manage. Any further comments? All those in favour? Carried. Thank you, Mr. Elding. A lot of work there. Page 511. Which is the proposed road closures for the 2022 Safety Rally Barossa. Any questions? Councillor Louise-Smith?
Yeah, just a question in regards to the economic and tourism benefits for our region from this event. And obviously there's a few events like this. This is quite substantial though and affects a lot of roads. I know that they're back roads, but it does affect a lot of people who have only got access to their property from one way or another. So I'm just wondering what benefits our region is actually receiving. Have we been presented with any numbers or figures? I know it says in there, 500 to 750 motorsport fans, but they're sitting in their cars on the sides of the roads watching this. What are we actually getting within our community out of this?
I know that when we first started on this venture with the rally, there was, as far as the people and the properties that the rally goes past, they invite all their friends and mates and sit out on the side of the property and have a barbecue and make a day of it. So I'm led to believe, and in other cases, some of the roads that are closed, and if there's a B&B on, the rally book out those B&Bs and things like that. So I think in the past it's worked well, and I understand this year they're also using the Colin Grove hill climb, which is on private land of course, but it's also adding another attraction to the rally.
So we don't, I guess we
The
don't have
very
anything.
short answer is no, nobody's ever done a full economic assessment.
Yeah. I'd just be interested to know what this is actually bringing into our region, because it does disrupt, some landholders are happy with it, but others aren't, and some people with those B&B businesses run into issues with guests getting in and out while it's on, so, yeah.
Yes, Councillor De Vries.
Move the recommendation, Your Worship.
Thank you. Seconder. Councillor Miller. Wish to speak, Councillor De Vries.
Yes, I've attended these in the past. They are very, very popular with the community. I know there are a few people who, from time to time, express concern. We get that also with Tour Down Under, but this is one event which focuses on the southern end. It brings tourists into the south, and we have been trying to do that as much as possible. It's a iconic event. It's a shame that it hasn't been. How long has it been?
We've been a good couple of years because of COVID. I think.
Yeah, which is a damn shame.
Yeah.
I think this is actually a terrific event which puts the Barossa on the map for all the reasons which we support the Tour Down Under. The same applies here, and it's nice that it showcases the southern end of the valley. So I urge everybody to support this.
Councillor Miller.
That's fine. It's been well covered.
Thank you. Any further comment? Put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Page 515. Which is the Barossa Local Economic Development Plan. That's the draft for consultation. As you know, we've sort of been working through this document for a little while now, and with various comments back to Mr. Maverinack. So it's now in that position to go out for consultation. Any questions?
I'll move the recommendation.
Moved Councillor Johnston, seconded Councillor De Vries. Councillor Johnston.
No, I think this is just part of the process, so I look forward to the consultation results.
Councillor De Vries.
As I spoke about when this was being discussed prior, I think many of the things which are in this report we're kind of already ticking the boxes of or are considering at length. But it's good to have it all under one document so that the community can get a good understanding of what's being attempted, what's being done, and I guess it's almost like a philosophical document as well, which is terrific. It recognises opportunities and also, I guess, the whole SWOT thing. It's competing a little bit with kids in the background. So yeah, I hope everybody gets behind this. I think it'll be great to get the community's feedback from that. Because I think it's a terrific document, so well done, and thank you, Gary.
Thank you. Any other comments? All those in favour? Carried. Page 559, which is 7.7.2, that's the battery stewardship scheme. This is to highlight the battery stewardship scheme. Oh, that's hard to get around.
Thought they were again.
And provide detail on how council can be involved. Any questions that anyone may have? Councillor Schilling?
Could this be integrated into the Father's Farm site, or that being on Light Council? Has there been any thoughts on using that site?
Through the Mayor, obviously, in terms of looking at potential sites, we'll look at probably Father's Farm as probably being the more logical one because of our ongoing commitment to their site.
Thank you.
Obviously, we'll look at other site opportunities as well.
Councillor Wee-Smith?
Just wondering if there's any indication of the cost to council. Obviously, being a member doesn't cost us anything, but in terms of resourcing, this is what we might be looking at.
Yeah, through the Mayor, obviously in terms of our Waste Management Officer's time and her support for the program and promoting it in terms of the communications team, so it's probably more that sort of resourcing at this stage. And obviously as we do more investigation, we'll see if there's any further cost to council.
Thank you. Any further questions?
I'll just add to the debate saying I think doing nothing is not an option.
Okay. Someone like to move?
I'll move that way.
Moved Councillor Johnston and seconded Councillor True.
I think I've said what I wanted to say.
Okay. All those in favour? Carried. Members, we now move to our confidential agenda, and that's the matter to do with the Smart Regions proposal approach to market and business engagement. So we need to move into confidence. Move Councillor De Vries, seconded Councillor Wee-Smith. All those in favour? Carried.
So who was the second?
Christmas.
Thanks, Mayor.
And the next scheduled meeting is the 25th of January.